Good evening. Welcome back to Anonymous Live. We are doing the first stream of 2023. We had last week off. I had water trouble here at my house, which I will tell you more about in a moment, but give me a minute here to fire things up. We'll also give people a few minutes to get in. Hope everybody had a great holiday. It's been a crazy week here. I was out of my house for about 5 days over the holidays. It was wild. My water went out. We had some pretty record, I believe these were like some of the coldest nights in Tennessee's history. My pipes froze over, had no water. My Christmas got pushed back by a few days, but everything is fine. And no burst pipes, so that's good. A lot to be grateful for. I know a lot of people here had pipes burst. It's pretty traumatic. Feel like I dodged a bullet. If you're new here, this is a pretty chill place. We'll be here for a couple hours taking anonymous calls. I don't know who's calling. I don't know what it is that's on people's minds, but we just create a space here for people to talk. Once a week. We do this stream twice a week on Tuesdays. We do it once a week now, since we've moved to the new channel. On Tuesdays only, for the time being. There's so much happening here. So, time is of the essence, but this project is a labor of love. And it really is the highlight of my week, doing these streams. I just love the unpredictability of it. I love the immediacy of it, and it feels real. It feels like a community. We do have a Discord server that's an extension of this project. It's the link to that is in the description. It's completely free, and people are in there every day just hanging out. Some people talk about real stuff, some people just chill, some people stream movies, some people play games. It's just a chill place of good people. If you're new here, this isn't entertainment. It's not entertaining. We have a 1-800 number here that anybody can call once a week for a couple hours and just chill, just talk. It's amazing how each conversation is different. Even after doing this for nearly a year, people call in here each week, and it always feels like the first time somehow. It's interesting. Since we've moved to a new channel, we've gotten off to a bit of a slower start here. At times, it's completely understandable. This stream is not about views or entertainment value, which is very different from the kind of stuff I'm known to make. It's interesting doing this stream. It doesn't feel like really making anything. It just feels like being here. So that's what we're here to do. And we will answer tonight's first call. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hey there.
Can we start with your age and a brief intro?
Well, I'm 26, and my intro is that you and I talked a few weeks ago, and I'm not sure how sincerely you meant it, but you asked for me to call back with an update, so I wanted to do that now.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad you did. What's can you jog my memory and then what's the update?
Uh, yeah, you ended up spending the entire live stream talking to just me about love and about alcoholism, and I still kind of feel a little bad about that, so I don't want to take up a full 2 hours of your time again tonight.
There's no problem. I do remember a recent stream where I talked to someone for a couple hours about alcoholism, so I believe I know who I'm talking to. How are things going?
Um, they're they're still not great. I've still got a lot of struggles going on, but I've been keeping a record every single day of my drinking habits. I don't know how healthy that is or not, but looking back on the record since December 18th, I have had less than 10 shots of alcohol every day, which, I mean, to some people, less than 10 probably doesn't sound like a super great thing, but compared to the amount that I was drinking before, less than 10 every day since December 18th is a really big improvement for me.
Wow. How much? It's I'm glad to hear about some progress. Drinking less than 10 shots a day. I mean, how much were you drinking before?
Uh, I mean, I wasn't really keeping track, which is part of the problem, but I could go through multiple liters of alcohol in a single week. It was a lot.
I see. Well, I'm glad to hear that you've started. I mean, taking record of what you are consuming is a big step from what I remember hearing from you. I can't remember our conversation in detail as part of the beauty of these streams because I don't know who I'm talking to, of course, but I do remember talking to you for a long time. Uh, and I'm glad to hear that you're taking some steps in the right direction. What do you think it's going to take to get you underneath, you know, where you to get you lower than you are right now? I mean, it's still 10 shots a day. That's still quite a bit, as you mentioned.
Well, less than 10 a day. The highest I've been going is 9. So
Okay, I
less
see.
than 10, and some days it's only 5 or 6, which is still not great, but, you know, under 10. Um, I mean, I still got a lot of problems. I don't know if I really want to take up too much of your time with that. I mostly just wanted to call in and say thank you for helping me get on the right track. It's still not great, but it's getting better, and I really, really appreciate that very long conversation that we had a few weeks ago.
What's going on in your life? You said there's something else. I also appreciated that conversation. Uh, we don't usually go that long on calls here. Uh, so yeah, what's going on in your life?
I mean, I don't know. I very briefly mentioned to you on our last call that when we last talked, I had just moved into a new place for the first time ever. It's my first time ever living on my own without any parents or anything. And I don't know. I've also got a physical disorder that gets worse with stress, and I'm sure the alcohol, doesn't help it, but sometimes the alcohol makes me forget about it for certain amounts of time. But I'm sort of just really lost in a lot of ways. I had just started my career when I was forced to move out a couple months ago. And now I'm having to restart all of it. And I'm just trying to restart everything now, including healthier habits. I don't like being an alcoholic. I know that it's bad for me, and so that's why I'm really trying to make differences. But I'm just so afraid of life right now.
What scares you about life?
I don't know, everything. I've never had a stable job. Right now, my father is still financially supporting me, and I'm scared about, like, if he ever dies. I mean, he will die, not if he ever dies, but when he dies, because he's older, am I going to be at a place where I'm able to support myself without his financial help? Because right now I can't. And I don't know, just a lot of things. Yeah, without that financial help, I would not have the mental help that I do right now. I have a psychiatrist who gives me medications that help somewhat, and I don't know if I could afford that if he wasn't around. And I mean, right now I moved here in the first half of December, and
Don't say where it is,
I'm
please.
still.
I'm trusting you know that. We
Huh?
talked for a while. I'm just sorry I interrupted. I just whenever people say they moved somewhere, I feel the need to reiterate. Don't mention a location because I get nervous when people talk about where they are.
No, I wasn't going to mention a location.
Okay, good, great.
I was just going to say that I'm living in this new place. It was the first half of December that I moved here, and I'm still staring at like boxes surrounding me. Like I've been trying to unbox little bit by little bit, but I'm staring at it all around me, and all I feel is the mess, and I'm scared about what would happen to me if my parents weren't around. And I'm scared about the future of my career and things like that.
Do you trust yourself? I mean, it sounds like you you may not
As
trust yourself.
as an alcoholic, no, I don't trust myself very much because I know how quickly things get out of hand.
Right. What are you depending on your parents on for right now?
Like I said, mostly financial stuff. I don't really talk to either of them that much, which is, the whole discussion we had about love last time. We don't need to get into that again, but they do still give me money, and I appreciate that very much. And I recognize that they are doing what they can for me. So, I mean,
Right.
yeah, I'm scared about what would happen when they're not around anymore because I'm just by myself and I don't feel very capable on my own.
What are some things that you've accomplished that you're proud of?
Um, I left a community college with several degrees in various areas, and my father liked to regularly tell me that it was meant to be a 2-year college, and I ended up spending like 7 years there, but I left it with multiple degrees. Um, and like I said a few minutes ago, I was starting to have a career at the beginning of the last school year. At the end of August, beginning of September, I was starting to have a career in the field of education. And then I was forced to move out of the house somewhat quickly, and I had to leave that all behind. So I'm sort of starting all over now.
So you sound pretty intelligent. You got through 7 degrees fairly quickly, it sounds like. It sounds like your dad liked to give you some crap about that because you took longer than a lot of people do, but you sounds like you were achieving a lot. It sounds like you took your time achieving a lot. It sounds like you're proud of that.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I am. I just feel down about it when no one else recognizes it as much. I don't know. I really depend on other people to give me a sense of worth.
Hmm. That sounds like you don't trust yourself.
I don't. I
Yeah.
definitely don't.
Yeah. I'm just reiterating back to you that I believe you when I hear you say that. Um, I mean, look, I'm clearly talking to somebody who's competent, well spoken, efficient in their study to make it through the amount of school you made it through as efficiently as you did. That if it's clear why you're proud of that. You should be proud of that. You know, some of the most brilliant people that I know, some of the most amazing people that I know are their worst critics. I think it's
Yeah, I've
because a
definitely.
lot of people who are, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I've definitely heard that before. What were you
Yeah.
going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that it's probably, I think in large part, it's because people who uh, are brilliant are usually very skilled problem solvers. It means they can like not only solve a problem, but they can foresee one. They can sense a problem before it's really a problem. That's what makes a great problem solver, is somebody who can foresee a problem before it is a problem. And I don't know you, but I'm getting at, like, for you to be a for you to be someone who can get through that amount of school in that amount of time, you must be a pretty good problem solver. That also, I think at least, that means you're going to be a good, problem forecaster. You could get into a philosophical argument about whether or not you're making the problem by foreseeing it. That's an interesting thought experiment I haven't thought through, but my point is, like, someone like you will naturally, people like you, from the sound of it, from what I know about you, are going to be people who have a hard time trusting themselves because they can see so many reasons they may be wrong. It makes me wonder, are you the kind of person who can step into another perspective pretty easily? Can you be pretty objective in conversation?
I mean, the thing about me is, like, I could write a 10-page essay in a single night and get an A on it. And when it comes to, like, children, my main passion was working in a preschool setting. So, like, when it comes to, like, 3-year-old children, I'm able to identify, like, why they're behaving a certain way based on their emotions and what a 3-year-old is capable of and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to my own self, like, I was told my whole life that my family were alcoholics and that I had that alcoholic gene in me. And I knew how much alcohol could ruin a person's life, and yet that's still what I choose to do.
You just said something interesting to me there. You said you had that alcoholic gene, which is something that uh, of course, most people have heard that, like, addiction is genetic a lot of the time. But there's this book that I came across last year by Gabor Mate, called The Myth of Normal. Are you familiar with this book or Gabor Mate?
I have not heard of
Okay,
that name ever, no.
I'm gonna put the Goodreads link to this book in the chat. It's a fairly new book. It came out, I want to say, like 6 months ago or something like that. Gabor Mate is a world-renowned psychologist, and clinical physician who's had a very long career. He's in his 80s now. He's from Canada. In this book, he talks about addiction. He talks about trauma. And he talks for a chapter or two about what he thinks is a myth that alcoholism runs genetically. He proposes the idea, and he's not targeting alcoholism and saying that. He's just talking about addiction in general, because it's like been a long-standing idea that addiction is genetic. It's just simply genetic. He raises the case that addiction of any kind is a trauma response, and that's why, if you have a family of alcoholics, as they used to put it, genetically, as a lot of people still put it, you'll hear a lot of doctors talk about addiction being genetic. But he raises a very powerful case, in my view, that addictions are trauma responses, which is a much more approachable problem than, like, if it's genetic, then you're doomed. There's nothing you can do about it. But if it's a trauma response, then it's much more approachable as a problem. And this is a guy who's in his 80s who spent, like, the first half of his career giving pills to people, because they were addicts, because they were unstable, And he spent the second half of his career raising the case that a lot of these problems are a trauma response. It makes me wonder if you've if you've had any trauma that you feel you've lived through.
Yeah, uh, you and I talked about that a little bit the
Okay.
last time I called, that I was adopted at birth and that my mother was not the greatest mother, the adoptive mother.
Okay. Yeah, it's coming back to me. I
Um,
do recall that.
so yeah, there's definitely a lot of trauma to work through, and so everything I know about my biological family has, like been filtered through her. But the alcoholic thing was one of the main things she told me about my genetic family ever since I was very, very young, which is why she told me to stay away from it, and then I fell into it anyways.
I see.
But,
Yeah, that
uh,
makes sense.
but
And
yeah,
drinking
I've
helps you
got
not think
that.
about all that much.
It it helps with a lot of things. Yeah, it helps with the mental pain and the physical pain. But like I said at the very beginning, I've really genuinely been doing my best to lessen it. I know that less than 10 shots a day, going all the way up to 9 doesn't sound great to a lot of people, but for me, that's an improvement from where it was in November, October, September.
Yeah, I think any sign of progress is progress. And somebody in the chat said that earlier. Aiden Yelsma said that. Uh, Aiden Yelsma also wanted to say to you that this feels scarily similar to stuff they went through a month ago, and they want you to know you're not alone, which I think is beautiful. Yeah, and I would reiterate to you, I don't think anything you're saying to me is crazy or weird, or I think it's part of being human. I think we, um, you know, based on hearing you talk, I can, uh, the struggle you have feels relatable. Not trusting yourself. Um, do you have good people around you? Do you have a good friend group? Do you have a good community around you? Do you have people that believe in you, that um, you know, lift you up?
I just moved to this new place less than a month ago, so I've got
Right.
my dog and a couple cats, and I've got my father giving me money, and I don't have a job currently. I don't have school anymore because I finished school. I don't. No, I don't have any friends. I've got my dog and a couple cats.
How can you find community? How can you? And I know you just moved there, but if that's the only problem, if it doesn't, and I don't believe it is. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but if I guess part of what I'm saying is that you need people around you. You need to find that uh, group of people. Maybe it's old friends. You don't have to be with them in person.
Hmm.
Of course, you can see them occasionally, but I think it's normal uh, at this stage of life to be getting used to being a little more distant from close friends than you once were, because people are moving for their careers. People are, you know, your social circle at this stage of life is commonly disrupted for a number of reasons, of course. So I think it's not like I'm not trying to suggest it's a problem that you don't have anybody around you, but I do think that finding that group of people, again, whether it's a phone call, a regular phone call to somebody, an old friend that you can talk to on the phone easily about stuff that's important to you. Yeah, I just feel like you need people around you validating what it is that is unique about you.
Well, I mean, old friends is, I guess, another thing to add to the list of things I'm scared of. Because most of my friends that I used to have, I haven't talked to since I was like a freshman, sophomore in high school, and I'm 26 now. And they're all like getting married. Some of them are having babies, things like that, and I'm just here by myself being unsuccessful in everything I do. And the reason we all stopped talking, I know, is because I started having mental problems, and no one wanted to deal with that in high school. No one wants a friend who constantly needs them, so I just let them all be because I didn't want to force them to deal with me. So I don't know how I would ever rekindle any of that after like a decade of not talking.
What kind of mental problems are you talking about?
Um, I mean, general depression and anxiety, and I've probably got a form of PTSD according to some therapists because of the way I was treated as a young child. So I'm very not normal in the way that I interact with people because I have like fears of abandonment and fears of people lashing out at me and stuff like that because of the way my mother was to me.
Did something happen with your old friend group? Or was it just that you got some diagnosis and then people saw you differently? Did something happen that you regret? Or was it just a diagnosis? I don't mean to belittle a diagnosis by saying it's just a diagnosis, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to understand what it is that
Yeah, no,
became of your old friends.
I'm hesitating because it's hard to say, but this is an anonymous thing, so whatever. What started happening, like in eighth grade, ninth grade, is I would call up my friends at the time and talk about like self-harm and suicide and stuff like that, like things that I either was doing or that I wanted to do. And looking back on it now, obviously a typical eighth or ninth grader doesn't know how to respond to something like that. Like, I honestly don't even know what I was wanting from them at the time when I was making those phone calls and stuff. But I would call them up just like hysterical about wanting to die or, cutting my body open, stuff like that. And they didn't know how to deal with that. And looking back on it, that's really not their fault. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to do about that now in the future.
Is it possible at that age your friends were too young to know how to respond? Maybe they didn't have enough life experience to know the best way to respond. Is it possible, in other words, that they care about you, that they still wonder how you are? Maybe they feel the same burden you feel. Is it possible they feel the same inability to reach out to you because it's been so long? Maybe Maybe they feel like at the time they didn't know what it was you needed, and so they backed off, feeling intimidated. And I know I'm asking a lot of is it possible ifs, but in short, is it possible they feel the same way you do? Is it possible that they felt unsure how to be there for you, and now too much time has passed?
I really genuinely don't know. My There was one friend I had since kindergarten because she ended up coming up to me on the playground and asking me if I wanted to be friends. And so by default, she was my best friend because she was the only friend that I had. And the very last time that she ever saw me, I had gashes all down my lower leg that I had done to myself. And that was several years ago. And that's the last time I ever saw or spoke to her. And she just got married a few months ago. She's living her life. She's happy. She has a career. She's doing everything. For all I know, she's married now. Maybe she'll have a baby in a few years. And I'm just here by myself. And given the way that she last saw me, hadn't washed my hair, hadn't done anything to myself other than cut my leg open, that's the last time she ever saw me. And I don't know how to fix that.
I think that, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear your story, and I don't want to rush to responses when you're talking so carefully about things like this. I think that people make a lot more space for people who are uh, clearly being genuine. People make a lot of space for authenticity. What I'm getting at is, I wonder how a conversation would go with some of these people if you called them up or sent them a message, whatever you think's appropriate. It might not be the same response for every person, but if you reached out in some way and just expressed that you have a lot of regrets about that time of your life and about the way your friendship wound up. I'm zeroing in on these old friends because old friends are different than friends you make later in life. If you have an old friend from childhood or your teen years that you can still get along with, there's something about that friendship that, even if you don't see the person all the time or as much as other people, there's something feels like a touchstone. It feels like, oh, I know this person's real. Like I've seen them, I've known them my whole life. I've seen them through ups and downs. Like, this person has been a part of this person. I get them on some level. There's something deep about an old friend. And I
Well,
hear that you're really lonely. That's what I'm zeroing in on.
the thing is just that, like, with the last one I was referencing, I said she was my best friend because she was my only friend. She had a lot of friends who weren't me. Like, she was not a lonely kid. She had a lot of friends, whereas she was my only friend. And looking back on everything I did, even like as a young child, I just wonder, like, if we were ever actually friends, or if she was just sort of like, pitying me and, being there for me because no one else was. Like, I genuinely, looking back on it, do not know if we were ever actual friends or if she was just the only person in my life that I could call a friend when she had so many other people around her.
Yeah, what is a friend? She clearly cared about you. If she was your, I know you say she was your only friend, but you must have been close on some level to consider her a best friend. Uh,
She was my only friend. That's why she was my best friend.
what about the other friendships? You said that there were some people from years back who you lost touch with because you felt you freaked them out. What about the other people?
Well, so I got bullied all throughout elementary school. My parents switched me schools in 8th grade, so I thought I had made some friends in 8th grade that I had from 8th grade to 9th grade. And then at the beginning of 10th, I got put in the psych ward and had to switch schools again. And that was when I lost contact with the others. So it was really only 8th and 9th grade that I had a few other friends. And then after 10th grade, never really talked to them again.
How can you make new friendships? What are your days like? How can you form new bonds with people? What is it you have? Can you tell me something that you can use to build a new tribe for yourself? Everybody needs a new tribe. Everybody needs a tribe, you know, uh, a tight knit group of friends, that we're
I
social creatures.
genuinely, yeah, I do know that. I've taken a lot of psychology and child development classes, but right now I genuinely don't know. My life the past few weeks has been trying to unpack boxes in this new place and wondering how I can restart a career again. That's all I've been doing the past few weeks. I don't have any idea what to do other than, you know, comment on Reddit and stuff to interact with people there. But I don't know.
Well, you just moved. You've got to figure some things out, of course. Um, some of this stuff is going to take time if you just moved, but you've got something. I don't believe that you're inept because you went through what sounds like a lot of school really quickly. And when I asked you if you could tell me something that you're proud of that you've done, that was the first thing. It was the first and only thing you mentioned. Uh, so I don't believe that you're an inept, uh, and I don't think you're calling yourself inept. But I'm believing that there's something that you can use uh, to stand on in relationships, to meet new people. Maybe you don't feel you're valuable. Maybe you need to, maybe some affirmations, maybe uh, a shift in perspective on what it is that you value. What are your values? These are things that everybody's got something that irks them about life, and I think that it propels people to do the things that they do, whether that's a job or the way they treat people or, whatever it is. Everybody has something about life that, some kind of itch that they have to scratch. And the scratch that you give, the itch that you feel, can tell you a lot about your value in the world, what kinds of problems you naturally gravitate towards. I think everybody has some kind of problem or itch that they gravitate towards or that they notice more than other people. And that's part of your value because you'll care more than other people about that little problem because you know how itchy it is. You know how good it feels to scratch it. And so you will have something that you can do for others that will not only help you believe in yourself, but also give, people some kind of thing to admire about you.
When I was 20 and 21, I was working as a preschool teacher, and I had multiple kids tell me that I was their favorite teacher. I was one of the only ones who would actually interact with them and play with them at school. And then I had just started to form a private tutoring business for people of all ages, all the way from pre-K to college students, anyone who wanted a private tutor. And that's what I had just started at the end of August this past year. I was starting to get really happy with that, and then I was forced to move and abandon it all. So, that's what I want to do most in life, but even if I was working with kids again, I I don't know how that helps me as an adult. You can't, talk to a 5-year-old about your life struggles.
I get the feeling you're just still in the middle of your coming of age journey. A lot of people are, presumably all through life, but a lot of people have what they call a quarter life crisis at your age, in your late 20s, where you're asking questions like this. And you just moved and you've been through a lot in life, and that's a lot to sift through with where you are. But I think that what it sounds like you need is some kind of target. You need a target to zero in on. The right target, when we zero in on it, when we focus on it, and when we hit it, can automatically organize all kinds of chaos. And right now there's a lot of chaos in your life. You just moved. You're trying to make sense of things you've been going through and relationships that you've had. You're asking questions about the authenticity of those relationships. And I think that it sounds like you need some target to hit in life. Maybe it's a career goal. Maybe it's giving back to your community. That can be another great way to meet people. Volunteer your time at the library. If you're good with kids, maybe you could go to your local library and volunteer to do book readings once a week for kids. Read a kid's book once a week. I know a lot of libraries are looking for people to do that kind of stuff. Just spitballing here. You don't have to do any of this, but just thinking of ways that you could give back. Because one time a mentor told me at a low point in life that the best thing you can do when you're feeling down is to volunteer your time, help someone, do something that other people enjoy. That's just like just a charitable act. Um, if you have a way to give back somehow, I don't know why I'm zeroing in on reading a children's book at a library, but that seems like maybe a really easy thing you could do, and a way you could meet people that also care about kids in the way that or at least are good with kids in the way it seems like you are.
I mean, I want I want to get back into the private tutoring because I mean the reason I switched to that from the preschool job is that as a private tutor you get to really focus on one kid at a time and help them with whatever they need help with, and really long term, if if my life could go the way that I want it to, which they say if you want to make God laugh, then just tell him your plans. But my my major life goal would be to adopt from foster care, like older children or teenagers who have been in foster care for a long time, who really, really need a home. But I mean, even if I could get there, that doesn't help me as an adult right now.
I hear the voice of someone who's trying to make sense of a lot all at once. And I don't think you'll get to the bottom of it quickly. That's why I'm kind of focusing on meeting people, doing something for people, or making friends. Both at the same time, if you can find a way to do it. That's why I think volunteering somewhere is a great idea, because you're contributing to your community, you're giving back, and you can meet people that way who care about the same things you care about and are also invested in your community. It can be a great way to meet people. Everybody needs a good group of people around them, not people that will just lift them up, but people who will challenge them, people who will criticize them if necessary. Uh, you know, I don't mean criticize them like throwing insults, but a good friend doesn't just puff you up. A good friend will also uh, tell you when they have a concern about you because they're concerned, and also a good friend will challenge you, not because not to be nasty or confrontational, but to challenge themselves. I think a good challenge is just a challenge. It's like we need people who will help us sharpen our ideas, and how else do you do that but through people who are willing to be honest and authentic and upfront. You don't have to wonder what people like that are thinking. Those kinds of people tend to be good friends. Um, and I think that you're searching for what that looks like for you, all of that, which is a lot. It's a lot to think about. But I think that it begins with you. I think it begins with you believing in yourself, that you have something valuable to contribute. We all have to contribute something to our community or our workplace, or we have to have some kind of thing we're contributing or we feel worthless. Nobody wants to feel like dead weight. And from the sound of it, you're really bright. You're a bright person. You have a lot you could offer anyone, a mate, a boss, a colleague. So I think it begins with you zeroing in on that target. I think you need to find your target. What is it you want to be remembered for? What is it you want to be written on your tombstone when you're dead? Uh, and I think you're at the right time of life to be asking that question.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this exceptional pressure to, I don't know, this is kind of morbid. I don't know if it has to do with where I came from or what, but I just like, for some reason, ever since I was a young kid, had this feeling that I was gonna die by like my mid 30s. Like, even as a young kid, I just felt like that was the amount of time that I had. And so I'm feeling that pressure now that I still haven't done too much significant stuff, which is irrational. And I know that it's irrational, but that's just still somewhere in the back of my head.
So it sounds like you're thinking, what's the point in trying anything? It sounds like you believe you're going to die in your mid 30s, or that you at least speculate.
It just feels like I don't ever go anywhere, no matter how much I do, no matter how much I try. I just keep starting over and over and over again. And I'm 26 now, all alone, with no career and nothing to do other than take care of my animals. And no matter how much I put into anything, it all gets taken away in a moment, and I just start over again.
If I mention another book to you, will you at least read about it? I'm not asking you to promise me you'll read any of this, but will you at least read about these two books? I've given you one already. Will you at least read the descriptions of these books if I give them to you? Because I feel like I'm...
Yeah, I've got
yeah.
the other one open in a tab already.
Okay, great. I think this other book, in my opinion, these books are like sequels. One of them's a sequel to the other. I'd say the first book I mentioned to you is actually the second book. The first book that I usually mention when I mention either of them is a book called Existential Kink, which is a very funny name. It's called Existential Kink, Unmask Your Shadow and Embrace Your Power. It's written by Carolyn Elliott. She's a PhD psychologist. It's a book about trauma. It's another book about trauma, but it approaches it much more like the first book that I mentioned, The Myth of Normal, is a very like, it's written by a clinical psychologist, like somebody, you can tell, it's just a very dense book. This book is a little more playful, a little more approachable. It's easier to digest, and it actually gets into some like specific methodologies for dealing with it's a framework for dealing with this stuff. Whereas The Myth of Normal is kind of like a book of essays and responses to studies. It's a collection of thoughts. But Existential Kink is a book about honestly, there might be a better name for the book than Existential Kink, but it's really powerful what she talks about, Carolyn Elliott. She talks about how we find these comfortable places mentally that we keep ourselves in because of trauma, because it's comfortable to resort to feeling sorry for ourselves in one case, or in another case, maybe it's like an addiction, or in another case, maybe it's gossip or like belittling others. And she lays out the case in this book, Existential Kink, that we have to get to a place where we can laugh at ourselves and the way that we deal with trauma, to where it's almost like comedic. She likens it to a kink, like in the bedroom. If you have a kink, if you have like some kind of fetish or something, it's like something that's kind of a taboo. Usually, that's why they call it a kink. It's something that in any other context would be like completely either disgusting or painful, or like, depends on what your kink is, of course, but she calls this book Existential Kink because she claims that we kind of have a tendency to like how our pain feels. And she guides people through this program, which you can actually go be with her for like a couple weeks while you work on this stuff. She does it like it must be really full because this is a pretty popular book, but she guides people through this kind of stuff that you're talking about, these ways of thinking about yourself and others, in a way where you can kind of get off on what it is that is irking you, to a point where you can laugh it off. And it's really interesting stuff. It's kind of a synthesis of a lot of different people's work. It's a synthesis of the work of Carl Jung and Freud and Nietzsche. She quotes Nietzsche a lot in the book, Friedrich Nietzsche. So it's like none of it's like completely original, but the way that she's packaging it is very original. So I just mentioned two very dense books, but those two were resonating as you were talking. So I hope you find them as useful as I did.
Well, I've got them both opened up in two different tabs, so I appreciate that. I mean, yeah, I appreciate your time and everything that you've said over the couple of calls that I had with you. I said at the beginning that I don't want to take up 2 hours of your time again, so I should probably be letting you go, but I do appreciate all of everything you've said.
Hey, we're gonna go off on a good note. I want to celebrate something. I probably should have celebrated it earlier, but let's celebrate the progress you've made with the alcohol. I know it's not exactly where you want to be, but that's a major step, and I want to applaud you for that, because what you did, that step is probably, it's at least one of the hardest steps in that journey of recovery, because you're making the conscious effort to step away from a habit for the first time. That first step is a big one. So I'm applauding you for that progress. And, lines here are always open. I might need you to jog my memory if you're calling with an update, but I really enjoyed getting this update from you, and I'm rooting for you to keep on keeping on. And I hope that those books we talked about mean as much to you as they did to me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of it. You definitely made a big impact last time we talked, and I think you will have this time as well. So just thank you for all of it and for this whole show that you're doing and all of it.
I appreciate you calling in and being real. Wishing you the best. Call again anytime. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Beautiful. It's always great hearing a return caller. Sometimes the plot thickens. It's okay. Life goes that way sometimes. But it's always great to hear a return call. Okay. Aiden Yelsma wants to suggest a book. Go for it. Basically, half the stuff we talk about here are books and meditations and things. So yeah, go for it. Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. Interesting book from the sound of it. Let's see here. I'm not familiar with this book. Sounds like maybe on point for the last caller. Maybe that's why you're mentioning it. Checking it out. Looks pretty popular. Interesting book. Thanks for the suggestion, Aiden Yelsma. I will check this one out. That's a funny idea from Raymag. Actually, not a bad idea. We could do that while we're waiting on another call, technically. I wonder what people have posted in that channel. Raymag suggested going through the Anonymous Confessions channel in our Discord server, which I plugged at the beginning of the stream, but if you're, for some reason, just now watching, there is a Discord server that's an extension of this project. The link is in the video description, and we do have an Anonymous Confession channel in there that nobody knows who's posting in. I don't know who's posting in there. The mods and admins don't know who's posting in there. And it's one of the selling points of the Discord server, in my opinion, because it's just that anonymous. So yeah, I wonder what people are posting in here. Let's see. Okay, we'll just start with the last one. This one was posted yesterday, which was January 2nd, 2023. It says, I'm going to make this text a little bigger. I wonder if I can. How do I? There we go. My husband is extremely materialistic and cares about appearances. Cares enough about appearances to leave me if I were to get fat or break out. I know this is bad, but I'm sticking it out with him until he can get a little wisdom in him, because it'll happen eventually, and I want to be there when it does. But I'm frustrated because over the last 6 months, people have been offering me food and cooking for me. I think because I kind of got a little anorexic because of my husband's obsessions and addictions. I try to turn them down, but when I do, they get offended, and I can't convince them they're a good cook. I keep saying I'm on a diet, but because people keep cooking for me and putting things like oil and salt in my food, I keep getting pimples that spring up before the others go away. A few months ago, my mom and dad cooked for me with lots of grease and sodium, so I broke up. I guess that means they broke out. I think they're talking about a breakout on their face or something. Not to mention they also included dairy butter and milk by accident, and my mom kept buying me cookies. I get it, and I really like their cooking, so I feel bad saying no, but I did tell them to stop. Now suddenly all my friends are so excited to find out I'm vegan that they want to practice making vegan foods by cooking for me, but they use lots of oil and salt. Tonight I'm going to a party and everyone expects me to go and eat a ton, but guess what they're having? Buttery, salty food. And they made it vegan just for me. I appreciate it so much and would love to eat that food, but I'm trying to get rid of these pimples. So this person has a really severe self-image situation. Okay. They post another message. They're going on. I'm trying to get through this. They say, it's really weighing on me, and I honestly don't know what to do. How to get my husband to look at me again while keeping my new friends from leaving me. I have kind of a date with my husband next month, if you can call it a date. I'm really pushing my diet, but everyone is concerned about my weight, and this party will grease me up for weeks. I don't know how long it'll take to recover. I only have a month to get smooth skin again, and I don't wear makeup because of religious restrictions, which is why I had to try extra hard, because my husband would prefer me with makeup, and we've fought over it for years now. Now this solution is a heavy, heavy diet. I wish I could just convince everyone to please just stop with the food until I say so. My goodness, I feel for the poster of this story. That what this honestly makes me think is, I would implore whoever wrote this to read up on. I should be clear before I say this that I can't diagnose anybody, and I don't claim to be able to. So this is just a suggestion. My suggestion comes from a place of feeling like it sounds like you're not being appreciated by your husband. It sounds like your husband's love for you is very conditional. And conditional love is not love. That's what I would say to this person. Love is unconditional and sacrificial. And if this is truly how you perceive your husband, I would read some books on red flags in identifying a narcissist or some kind of psychopath. I mean, if this person is clearly under a lot of scrutiny, they're going on and on about their appearance and certain ways of being that they feel they need to conform to in order to be accepted. And I would want this person to know that that's not. Nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to live under that kind of scrutiny. So I would check out a book like "Should I Stay or Should I Go" by Dr. Ramani Durvasula. Dr. Ramani Durvasula. That's probably the book that I'd start with. If that person got through that book, I would, if they felt there was something to it, if they felt that the book was on point for their situation, I might check out Psychopath Free by Jackson Mackenzie, which goes into a lot more detail, gets a lot more granular than Should I Stay or Should I Go. That second book is kind of the book you want to read if you're pretty sure you're dealing with somebody who doesn't actually care about you. That story kills me to read because it's not just involving your significant other, but it's also involving your friend group. Your friend group is concerned about, they're clearly concerned about you. They're trying to cater to your dietary preferences, and yet you're feeling pressure from all sides. Makes me wonder if this person who posted this accepts themselves, if they value themselves. It seems like you put a lot of thought into the people around you and how they perceive you. So yeah, that's what I would say to this person. Let's see what else is in here. This is an interesting idea. Thank you, Ray. Good suggestion from Ray. Let's see what else is in here. I haven't screened any of these, and this is completely off the cuff, so I'm just kind of sitting here. Of course, if anybody calls in I'm not sure how that's going to interfere with doing this. We've never read comments like this before on a stream, so I'm kind of just flying by the seat of my pants. But I like this idea. I'm going to put some more thought into how we could approach these. Here's one posted on December 30th, 2022 at 9:38 p.m. It says, I feel like I have no goals in my life. The main goals I set for myself in 2023 is that I want to get a good job, I want to start going to school again, and I'm hoping to start a romantic relationship. Unfortunately, I've had major failures with most of those in 2022. I attended and flunked out of 2 schools. I quit one job to go to the first school, and I was fired from another. I've considered either asking friends out on dates or online dating, but I haven't gone through with it due to fear of more failure. I've contemplated self-harm, but I just torture myself with hot sauce instead, and I always regret the pain. Torture myself with hot sauce. Interesting. It makes me wonder if they really mean that, if they really are like some hot sauce I know is like really hot. I wonder, I sense some humor in there with that last sentence, but it's on the heels of a bunch of really intense stuff. So makes me wonder if they actually do kind of get something from that, from eating really spicy stuff. On what level they meant that, I guess, is what I'm saying. I don't know. I like to say in life, you got to find some kind of problem that matters to you. You've got to find something that irks you more. You got to find the thing that irks you more than anything else. And whatever that is, you'll have a good reason for it irking you. Usually it comes from personal experience. Usually it comes from some kind of thing you've come up against, and that's the reason you care about that problem. I think one of the best things people can do in life is identify a problem that means something to them and attack it with good solutions. Those solutions can come from studying something in school. It can come from practicing something professionally. It can come from, you can get that training in a number of ways, of course. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Can we still say that in 2023? It's more than one way to skin a cat. But point being, I think life is much more than about, it's much more than being about problems. There's much more to life than problems, but I think one of the most important things we can do in life is identify a good problem. A good problem meaning a problem that is good for you to solve, first and foremost, meaning you might have some ideas on good solutions to those problems. And also a problem that's worth solving, a problem that needs to be solved, a problem that other people will benefit from you solving. And that's what makes the world go round. I think a lot of people, that's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I mentioned to the previous caller, identifying that target. What's your target in life? What is it that you want to be remembered for? A lot of that comes from what we do with our lives professionally. It's how a lot of people are remembered. Some people are remembered for having great families or very influential families and things like this, but most people are remembered by the problems they solved, by what they meant to other people that they traded with or solved a problem for. And so I that's why I think one of the most important things we can do in life is find the thing that irks us more than anything else and zero in on getting really good at fixing it. Not just so that you can fix it for yourself, but so you can fix it for other people. And I can't think of a more meaningful life. I can't think of a more meaningful basis for a life than a problem that you not only care about, but a problem that you have some experience with in solving. Those kinds of people make the most prolific problem solvers, I think. The people who both are irked by something and also have the means to fix it. So for this person, I would say maybe spend some time meditating on what it is that gets you going? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? And maybe dedicate time to finding frameworks for dealing with those problems, for things that that could keep you in bed, but that actually get you out of bed. Because a lot of people, one of the common signs for depression is staying in bed, not wanting to get out of bed. A good problem will get you out of bed so long as you address it. If you don't address it, it'll keep you in bed. It's really actually fascinating reading these posts in this anonymous confession channel because I don't ever read through them. I read through them very seldomly. So this is actually, I really like this idea of going through these and giving these some more attention. People are posting here clearly for a reason. So I really like this idea from Ray. Okay, another anonymous confession. I'm admittedly kind of going through these and skimming through many of them before I decide which one to address. Maybe I'll have a better way of filtering these in the future. But here's one that says, from December 14th, 2022 at 9:44 p.m., it says, I hate dating. I wish it wasn't necessary. I wish I could jump straight to marriage and leave behind all the searching pains. My latest ex recently came back into my life just to rub it in my face that he doesn't regret using and abusing my love and finances. And then I just found an old iPad with pictures of an ex I dated in middle school. I was BFFs with this guy for 10 years, but gave him up for my fiance. My fiance is struggling with his faithfulness to me, though. I feel like my 10-year-old ex was the closest I ever got to my fiance. That's how distant he is to me. I miss my first BF, but I know it's mostly because he reminds me so much of how my fiance was before the drugs. I miss my man. I know God will fix it soon, but it's just hard to wait for the one you love to be faithful to you again. I know he will be, and I love him enough to stick it out. And more than that, I vowed my devotion to him before God long ago, so I can't just step back now. But I won't pretend it's easy seeing him cheat on me like this, and not being able to sleep in his bed. To be honest, I want a new bed after this, though. It sounds like this person is really confused and searching for what love is. I don't know how old this person is. That's part of the beauty of this anonymous confession channel, but given that they're referencing finding pictures of an ex they dated in middle school, it leads me to believe they're on the younger side. I can barely remember my exes from middle school. I don't know that I have any pictures of them. So I'm laughing at myself at how I arrived at that thought. But my guess is that this person is still searching for what it is that's important to them. And I would say to this person that dating is really weird right now. Um, this is why I'm kind of deliberating over how old this person is. They're lamenting about dating. I guess from my vantage point, like I remember dating before any of these apps were around. There were none of these like Hinge, Tinder, Bumble. None of these things were around when I was first dating. So makes me wonder like how people who are really young perceive dating. It's really strange to think about that for me at my age, because I still see dating the same way I've always seen it. But so many people meet this way now. So many people meet through technology. And I think it's a very common problem. And like so many people looking for love that I talk to, it makes me wonder if this person is attracted to healthy things for themselves in a partner. So many people fall into love with people who are not good for them. It's part of what makes that existential kink book so powerful. And also The Myth of Normal. I talk about those books a lot lately since I've found them. Part of what makes those books so powerful is addressing that head on. And I don't know what the solution is, but I'm just kind of acknowledging that this person who posted this, I would say to them, they're definitely not alone. You're not alone. Wherever you are, whatever you feel you're going through, you're not alone. Lots of people are feeling this way, especially about dating right now. I think it's going to get easier, and I actually think technology might make dating simpler in the future. I think it's possible, at least. So far, I'd say it's only overcomplicated it, because people get treated like a piece of meat when you date them on the internet. It's just from one old man to the entirety of the internet. That's one man's opinion. But I think it's mostly just like dating and advertising don't really mix. And I think that these dating platforms some people meet on there and find good partners, but I think there's just so many people who get misled these days, and it's really easy to find someone who's not good for you on online dating, I would say, for many reasons. But I feel this person's pain, and I wonder, yeah, I would ask this person to check out Existential Kink and The Myth of Normal. Yeah, that's what I would say. Chad, how are we feeling about this? Reading anonymous posts like this. It's I hadn't prepared for this, so it's obviously going really slowly, but do you guys like this idea? If so, we can put some thought into how to better package this. I like the idea. I think it's actually pretty interesting. Maybe we could have a segment during the streams where we do a pre-selected number of anonymous confession posts from the chat, from the Discord server, and we just put them in here. I think if I had them selected ahead of time, that would be better. So then you guys aren't just waiting around to see what I'm going to pull from the chat. But, yeah, I like this idea. Okay, let's see what else is in here. We got about 20 minutes left in tonight's stream. Looks like the chat likes this idea of the anonymous confession channel. Okay, here's one from December 6th in the Anonymous Confession channel. December 6th, 2022 at 3:34 p.m. This is a short one, but dense. It says, I feel like being homeschooled crippled my ability to have real life experience. And now that I'm older, I'm completely lost on what I'm even supposed to do now. It's like I'm directionless, and even stepping outside scares me. This one sticks out to me because I was homeschooled for most of my life, and I can attest to how intentional one has to be to means a social scene doesn't just walk onto your front doorstep when you're homeschooled. You kind of have to go find it. I was always very outgoing and not afraid to look like an idiot or make an ass of myself. I was always doing like pranks and stuff, and so I don't know why that leads to having friends in high school, but when I was in high school, doing pranks got you a lot of friends. So it was never a dull moment for me in high school, really, even though I was homeschooled. But one thing I noticed with a lot of my friends who were less outgoing is that, being homeschooled can really be challenging for some people who have a hard time putting themselves out there. It seems like maybe it can, in some cases, reinforce introverted social tendencies. And, even though I was outgoing, I still felt I had to put myself out there more than friends of mine who went to public high school or private high school. And I think that is part of the challenge with when you grow up in more isolation than other people, whether it's because of being homeschooled or, even going to a small private school can kind of breed some of that. There's a number of reasons people grow up feeling this way, I would say. But it sounds like this person is looking for safe ways to put themselves out on a limb. It sounds like this person wants to put themselves out there, but doesn't know how and is scared to. And I would say to this person that going out on a limb is supposed to be scary. And I would say there's surely some limb that you can step out on that's safe for you to step out on. And this person needs to find that limb. This person needs to find what it is that matters to them. This person needs to find out what it is that they're good at, and to push themselves into a new comfort zone. I don't love saying out of the comfort zone. I like the idea that you can expand your comfort zone, because I believe it's true. I think things are only uncomfortable until it's mysterious. So as soon as you put your foot in to the mystery of it, and surrender to the mystery of it, just that one act, whether it's successful or not, makes you more confident. Because even if you fall on your face, you know better how next time to proceed, or you know how not to proceed. So to this person, I would say that, don't let being homeschooled hold you back from putting yourself out there. Everybody gets scared putting themselves out there, whether they were homeschooled or went to an Ivy League college. It doesn't matter. Or maybe they did both. I don't mean to suggest you can't go to an Ivy League school just because you were homeschooled. I'm resisting doing the rim shot sound there. That's not what I'm saying. It can happen. But I would say it's just life. Don't sweat it. Just find something that... one thing I've noticed in doing this stream for almost a year now is that so many people struggle with trusting in themselves. And I find that really interesting, because it's a really humble trait to question yourself. I also think it's, in my personal experience anyway, a lot of, like I said this earlier to the first caller, that a lot of the most, I can't remember the exact way I put it earlier, but a lot of the most conflicted people I know in life are, in their own lives, they are like, they're the most brilliant people. Like the people who can solve the biggest problems or can solve more problems than other people. These people tend to be very introspective and self-critical. And I don't think that's by mistake. I mean, there's plenty of things we can all hate about ourselves. Like, because none of us are, like, nobody's perfectly balanced all the time. Everybody has bad days. Everybody takes up space. Everybody takes up space. If you're in a room with 100 people or 5,000 people, you're taking up space. Your presence there means something. It takes up space. And nobody wants to feel like they're just taking up space. Everybody wants to feel like they're in a room and actually contributing something. People want to feel like they're there for a reason. Nobody wants to feel useless in a social situation. And I think that's what a lot of really highly intelligent people deal with. I think they feel that on a really deep level. But it's really fascinating to me how many people call in or post things like this because it's very relatable. To me, it seems very relatable. I've dealt with it. I've known many people who've dealt with it. And I guess I wish more people knew that. I guess I wish more people knew that was okay to feel that way at times in life. I think we can make it through those kinds of things. And life has a way of kind of pulling us along with progress that doesn't feel like progress sometimes. Sometimes it feels like we're beating our head against a wall, but really we're beating the wall down with our head. And then the wall falls down eventually. I've definitely been there. I've definitely beaten my head against some walls that then just like woke up one day and was like, oh, the wall's gone. I hit it enough with my freaking head. So that's what I would say to this person. Okay, chat, we're going to read one more. It's a very slow night tonight. It's the top of the year. I don't even know if corporate America is back at it yet. Are people back at jobs now? I don't know. I know some people are, but it seems like a lot of people are still traveling. So it's I'm glad to see anybody in here tonight. And I'm not yawning because I don't want to be here. I'm yawning because this week was crazy. I don't know if you guys heard me talking at the top of the stream, but my water was out for several days. And I had to leave my house. I mean, I didn't have to. I only had to if I cared about drinking water. And I couldn't do my laundry or anything. It was like my house was a catastrophe for several days. Fortunately, no pipes burst or anything. But anyways, I am tired. Okay, looks like some of the chat's back at work. Lots of good thoughts in the chat for the anonymous posters. Some of them I'm too late to touch on, but lots of good perspective in here. Thank you, chat. Thank you, Ray. Ray says he's going to send timestamps to the in the anonymous confession channel so people who posted can see. And I see Kingspawn has joined us. Welcome, Kingspawn. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's do one more anonymous post before we wrap this up. Let's see here. Man, there's so many long ones in here. There's so much detail on some of these. Oh, wow. Some of these I'm afraid to touch on without really digesting. Some of these have so much detail. I don't want to say something that would be uh, too off the cuff. Okay, here's one from. Wow, I really picked a heavy one to end on, I guess. I said this would be the last one, and I forgot that. I don't even know how I'm going to address this one specifically, but it touched me. This one's from November 27th, 2022 at 9:58 p.m. It says, interactions with family and friends have kind of been bittersweet since my brother and his girlfriend got engaged. I hate to admit it, but I get jealous of the way that my family gushes over the ring, their engagement photos, and how literally everyone is excited for their wedding. The reason why is because I know that, being queer, I won't be met with the same enthusiasm if I find someone who does not fit their narrative of who I should be with. Instead, I'll most likely be met with insults, ostracization, and told that I'm going to hell. Although I have pretty much come to terms with this, I guess I still get a little envious when I see what could have been. My heart breaks reading this because there's so many people that grow up like this in circumstances or families, homes, where they can't feel they can be real. And I don't know how common it is to feel like you're growing up or living in a place where you're not understood or you're underappreciated or not respected. But I certainly know that feeling of living with someone like that. Of course, I don't know. I'm not gay, so I don't know what that feels like to be in that specific situation. I'm just trying to be very clear about that. I can only imagine. But I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people who grow up in situations where they're not appreciated, or I don't know if this person's growing up in that situation. Anybody in any situation, whether it's even a boss or a friend or a family member or a partner who keeps you confined in some space like this, keeps you mentally tied up. It just breaks my heart. It's one of the reasons we do this stream, to give people a place to just like say stuff like this, to be real, so that others can hear from anonymous people that this is literally how they feel. Like, no agenda, no objective. This is just how people feel. I think that kind of honesty can be very constructive for both the person who needs to vent and for the people who, I believe some people need to hear accounts like this from people. Specifically, if you're somebody who is treating the person like this person's being treated. This person says they're ostracized and insulted and treated differently, told they're going to hell. And I think that it's in hearing things like this that we are actually able to come closer together and meet people where they are, appreciate them for where they are, what they are, who they are. And I would say to this person, it sounds like you need a really, it sounds like you need a deep, meaningful group of friends around you who can be that for you. You might not get it from your family if that's how you've been treated, or maybe it'll take them time to come around and appreciate you for who you are. But you might not be able to get that from your family, sadly. Sometimes we can't always get, none of us get the same things from our parents. Most of us get very different things from our parents because people are different. If that's where you are, then building your tribe from the ground up can be exhausting, but it can also be very rewarding, because once you find those people around you, some of them might already be there. Some of them might be people you haven't met yet. Some of them might be people that you know, but you haven't gotten to know too well yet. But once you get that tribe in order, once you get those people around you, those are the people that will lift you up. And you might not be able to get it from your family, but there are people who will be there for you and can lift you up and celebrate the happy times. It's not a reason to not look forward to the future. It's not a reason to tell yourself you don't deserve certain things in life just because the people around you that you care most about aren't going to react the way that you want. It can be a really difficult thing getting motivated to do the kind of thing I'm talking about, because I think a lot of people really want, more than want, I think a lot of people crave desperately the approval of parents or caregivers, family. People want this appreciation and acceptance from family, but we can't always get it. And it's sad when that's the case, of course. But the beauty is that you can, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And your friends will be maybe closer to you in a familial sense in the times where you're celebrating certain things. And that's okay, I would say. I'd say that's okay. In fact, that can be really more meaningful sometimes, because friendships are more than chance, because you can pick your friendships. Sometimes your friendships can be that much more meaningful because they're intentional. So I would encourage this person to keep on keeping on and to put some time and thought into the people that are immediately in your circle who you can get closer with and confide in. Whatever it is that you're missing, you might be able to get it from your friends. And if it's not coming from your family, it doesn't mean you can't get it elsewhere. So that's what I would say. Guys, I really love this idea of incorporating the anonymous confessions. I'm going to put some more thought into this. We may do more of these in the future. Maybe a new segment in the middle of the stream or something. Really, really love this idea. So thank you for that, Ray Mag. At this point, we are definitely not going to be getting into another call because it's too late, and I wouldn't want to get started on a phone call that's only going to last 10 minutes. But I will come hang out in the Discord server for 5 minutes or so. Once I get the stream shut down, I'll hop in for a brief minute and just hang out for a few minutes before I go to bed. I want to thank you guys for being here. These streams are the highlight of my week. And we do it once a week on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific for about 2 hours. And it's always a good time. And I will see you next week. Huge shout out to our mods tonight. I saw King's Pawn and Ray Mag, and I love this Anonymous Confession incorporation. Feels really good. I'm going to be mulling this over this week, and I will see you guys next Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And those of you who are in the Discord, I will see you shortly, just in a few minutes. Hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you next week. Good night.